Former U.S. Attorney Harry Litman joins me now to discuss those hearings that we were just talking about. He's a legal affairs columnist for the Los Angeles Times and a constitutional law professor at UC San Diego and UCLA. Harry, thanks for being with us. We've been talking about this a little bit more. Oh, I apologize. We got a little delay there. We've been talking a little bit about how federal investigators have raided the home of former Justice Department official Jeffrey Clark. And really, it seems that he was really pushed by the department, the DOJ, at former President Trump's request to get involved in efforts to challenge the 2020 election. We did not see him testifying. Can you break things down, remind the audience why Clark's a focus now?
Sure. You didn't see him testifying because he took the fifth. So Clark was a sort of mid-level guy in the Department of Justice who Trump was able to latch onto because he was willing basically to tell a lie, and that's where the crime comes in. He was willing to send out a letter from the Department of Justice to the different states saying, we found real corruption here, you should look into it and appoint a slate of Trump electors. All of that was bottomed on a lie, and for that reason, it's a crime, or at least it's a potential crime under the federal code to defraud the government of a lawful function. So he is just sort of dragged into things. He's not at all a player in the DOJ, but he's somebody who is very convenient to Trump. Trump says, I'll make you attorney general if you do this dishonest deed, and he's all too ready to do it.
You know, I do want to ask you, as a former Justice Department official, I'd like you to shed some light on how you think the DOJ has been handling this unprecedented, really, investigation into the January 6th attack and former President Donald Trump. I do want to point out you are a member of the Democratic Party. These are Republicans and people who have been very loyal to Donald Trump. But what's your take on this?
Yes, they are. Republicans have been very loyal, and yet they all stood up as a person. It was really one of the finest hours of the DOJ because everyone who was above Clark said to Trump when he proposed sacking them to put Clark in to do this letter, if you do it, we are all going to resign en masse. You're going to have complete bedlam on your hands, and it won't be effective anyway. That was really a great show of sort of integrity and principle. Now, is Clark in trouble criminally? Yeah, he potentially is. And the department, so first I want to say that was a shining moment. But in terms of how they are currently handling it, they have now served a subpoena on, served a search warrant on Clark. They're getting all the stuff. He's obviously at least a subject of a criminal investigation. What would the crime be? Almost certainly a conspiracy to defraud the U.S. And that, yes, to answer your initial question, could potentially implicate Trump because he was obviously co-conspiring. He was really sort of the impresario, and Clark was kind of the stooge here. And so that's the Attorney General has promised they're going to look into this till the very end. That has to mean, I think, looking carefully at Trump. Doesn't have to mean charging him. Lots of complicated questions there, but I think it has to mean looking seriously at his role.
There are a lot of people close to Clark that are really questioning the timing of this. What do you make of that?
The timing of the search yesterday?
Yes.
Yeah, well, and they've also done it to Eastman as well. If they mean there's some coordination between the department and the hearing, I don't think so. This really is also of a piece with how they're moving independently. But if it were, there'd be nothing sort of untoward about it. But the department is really jealously guarding its independence. And I think the committee, it's now decided probably not to make a referral, not because it doesn't want to, but it wants to be seen as also safeguarding the department's independence. So I don't think there's any sense of kind of coordination. It's scary enough for Clark and Eastman to get the search. It doesn't matter really when it happens.
What do you make of the fact that these public hearings have now been extended into July? You know, initially we were told it'd probably be about 6 hearings. The first one would be in prime time. The last one would be in prime time. Now they're saying they have so much information, we have to go into next month. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I think they do. I think they're also conscious that they would be fighting upriver against the Supreme Court next week. And I think they just very much, they have so much and they want to give it in comprehensive but bite-sized pieces for maximum dramatic impact. And I just think their sort of decision, and it's hard to fault them, they've been kind of impeccable to date, is that a little bit of a break, let people absorb some pretty harrowing episodes that they've now presented will be to the benefit of the public for when it then gets the real mother load, which is coming in 3 more hearings in July.
Got to get through that 4th of July holiday too. So Harry Litman,
Right.
thank you so much. Really appreciate you being with us.
Thanks for having me.